Hello, you're watching Tri-Vibes TV. Welcome to another weekly training video where I'm here to talk through all the training I'm doing to prepare for IRONMAN Texas coming up in April of 2026. In today's video, I'll talk about how last week's training went. We'll take a look at the training on my plan for the week ahead, and I'd like to finish off the video with an update on some of the Garmin health and performance statistics that I touched on last week. So let's dive in. I think overall, I'm going into the third week of training. So last week was week 2 of Ironman training. And having done this 3 times, this is my third Ironman that I've signed up for. I'm recognizing that the first couple weeks of training are really special. I feel that it's special because I know what I've gotten myself into in a sense. I know that all of this work is going to take place. I know I'm going to have to really push myself week in, week out. I know it's all going to culminate in this big, long day, hopefully a celebration at Ironman Texas, but I'm not there yet. I still have 18 weeks of time, and it feels like I'm in a really good place to be able to improve, not only just like physically, also mentally. I just think that I can get in a better place in 18 weeks. And honestly, as race day gets closer and that number starts being like 3 weeks, 6 weeks, even 8 weeks, you start to feel like I'm not really going to improve very much in that shorter amount of time. So all I'm trying to say is that I'm recognizing the magic of the first couple of weeks of Ironman training, especially with like a 22-week build that I have, where you really feel like there is plenty of time for me to get some fitness benefits, get some endurance, strength built up, and then be able to really go smash it on race day. So that's where I'm at overall. Let's take a look at the details of how last week's training went day by day, and maybe give a little bit more insight into why I'm feeling, this excitement and this sort of magic right now here in the beginning. Started out last week with a pretty typical Monday. 30 minutes of swimming in the pool, really nice warm-up type of workout. Really love getting up, getting a swim done before the sun comes up. Like, I love starting my day like that. And did a 3-mile run also in the morning. A little bit of a surprise. I'm not used to doing a run on Mondays, but that's in there. I'm on this training plan. I'm here for it, right? So something comes up on my training plan I'm not expecting or not used to, I just try to dive into it and not really get caught up in that's going to throw off my routine. So enjoyed my run on Monday, took it nice and easy. On Tuesday, had I feel like these strength sessions I'm doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're becoming more challenging, but also more rewarding as I start to add a little bit more resistance, a little bit more weight, pick things up that are a little bit heavier than they were a couple weeks ago. I think that I'm starting to feel some of those gains in strength through the increases in resisting that I'm doing in my strength training, and that's really feeling good. Not to mention, I've also been able to get on my bike after strength training and still have a really solid workout and not feel like I'm being held back. Whether or not I'd be able to do, maybe a higher wattage on my ride if I hadn't done the training in the morning, I'm not sure. I'm not going to waste my time thinking about that. Quick look at Tuesday's workout. This was a classic 30-second sprint with 30-second recovery set. Really something special on the trainer because you don't shift gears, you just pedal for that 30 seconds. I had the target power for the sprint set at about 360, so my power meter has me clocking in around 370, 371. So that effort is well above my FTP by about 30-40 watts. Ultimately, I was able to do all 20 of those 30-second efforts no problem, and then I had a 10-minute zone 3 chunk at the very end there that I did at about 270 watts. Felt good. No brick run on Tuesday, so strength bike done. On Wednesday, went out for a 5-mile easy run. Was really enjoying just the feeling of having run 2 6-mile runs the week prior. That was a huge deal for me. If we look back at last week, I had just about 17 miles of running volume, which was an increase for me over the previous week. And then this week, spoiler alert, I'm up another mile, 18 miles this week. But on Wednesday, in the last mile of my run, I started to feel like a little bit of a sharp sort of stinging feeling in my right calf. And immediately I started thinking about my 8-mile run on Saturday and starting to like worry about it a little bit. Did everything I could on Wednesday to roll it and stretch, but I sort of knew that it was going to be bothering me, at least mentally going to be bothering me for a couple of days. So that developed on Wednesday, and I did some quick like core strength work on Wednesday as well, doing these WooCar strength training 4 to 5 days per week, and Wednesday was just some quick, I think it was like some dead bugs and some V-ups, some core work. So on Thursday, back to the gym for a more focused strength session. That one was a little bit shorter than normal. It was just like a couple of movements. Ended up doing some Bulgarian split squats with a bar on my back, not like a full squat bar, but like a one of the smaller, like a curl bar. So that was pretty exciting. I'm new to that. And then got on the bike for 1 hour of easy spinning. Did that here on the trainer and enjoyed myself on that Thursday. Pretty good training day. Friday, quick swim. Not really much to talk about on Friday. Really just got that swim done and just tried to relax for the rest of the day. At this point, I was still making sure I was doing a lot of stretching, giving that like right calf situation a little bit of attention, rolling on that on Friday. Transitioning into Saturday, I really enjoyed my 8-mile run. It's the longest run that I've done in a couple months. I'm really happy that my pace, even though it was a little bit slower than like that 8:15, which is typically my sort of easy pace, where my easy pace sort of begins around 8:15. I really just kind of, knowing that it was going to be my longest run, I just sort of allowed myself to run just a little bit slower, especially the first couple of miles, just sort of built into it. And I can gladly say that my last mile probably felt the best. This last section of the run here, my pace average there was 8:12, so right tucked in into that easy pace range, and my heart rate average 147. That is high zone 1. So really, now that I'm not focusing at all on trying to run like a 5K off my bike as quick as I can, like the last couple of weeks and months have been going, I can really embrace these slower paces and tell myself that compared to the walking that I did last year at IRONMAN Texas, almost anything, a jog, a shuffle, is flying. So I definitely enjoy that mindset, and Saturday's long run was a win for me, especially because my right calf that I had spent a couple days worrying about, it really didn't show up. It didn't show up at all. Like it wasn't an issue. I mean, the last step of the run, I felt like a little like it felt tired, but no big deal. And on to Sunday. Sunday. Yesterday was like, I'm still sort of riding a little bit of a high from yesterday's session because I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be hard to do 3 hours on the indoor trainer, especially with about 40 minutes of zone 4 work, but I did it. And I was able to do the entire workout. I strategized a little bit. Overall, I knew I didn't have enough calories to sort of support like a high zone 2, like Ironman race pace level of effort for 3 hours. So I sort of set myself up for success by, instead of targeting that mid or high range zone 2 for the bulk of the remaining set of the ride here, I ended up targeting a little bit lower, like 190 watts as opposed to 220. Lots of little details here, but I feel like it was the right call because I was able to finish the ride, and even though it was like uncomfortable and my saddle area was discomfort and my shoulders were starting to bother me a little bit, ultimately I was able to complete the ride, get off the bike, and have a really nice run afterwards. So really happy with the ride, especially considering the average power output for the 3 hours. I was pretty shocked. I did my intervals 8 minutes, right at about 300 watts. So 5 by 8 minutes at 300 watts. The fourth one, I sort of lowered the target a little bit, but got all 5 of those zone 4 sets done, and then rode around 190 for the remainder of the ride. Average nominal power was 231 for 3 hours, and I'm pretty happy with that. If I can get anywhere close to 230 watts on race day at IRONMAN Texas, I definitely feel confident I'm going to have a PR on the bike. So last week's training felt great. Despite a little bit of concern about my calf, I can happily say that my foot hasn't really been an issue, my hip hasn't really been an issue, and I got last week's training done. So on to the next week. Today has been a really great day already for training. I had another 30-minute swim this morning, went out for another 30-minute run on Monday, similar to last Monday, and I really enjoyed this run today a lot. I found myself getting into a bit of a kind of a flow or a feeling that I haven't really felt on the run for a while today. And I think the best way I can explain it is that for the past couple of weeks and months, a lot of my runs, almost every single step, I've had a level of concern about my foot becoming more painful or my hip becoming more painful, or I've just been almost like running on eggshells for a while now. And I'm getting a lot of running done, but there's like this extra mental tax that's coming along with it, where I feel like I'm like one step away from a setback. And I feel like today on my run, I found myself sort of letting that go and letting my thoughts wander and just kind of going into that autopilot, being a little bit more present, sort of just observing my surroundings a little bit more, just taking deeper breaths. And I was realizing this, and what's funny is I was trying to take it nice and easy on my run today, and I kept having these sort of positive realizations about how, hey, my feet feel good, even though I ran 13 miles in the last 2 days. I feel all right. And honestly, that was a really nice feeling. And I think that this was a very awesome run for me. It could be a bit of a turning point. I'm hoping I can ease into that type of mentality more often on my training runs moving forward. So speaking about moving forward, tomorrow I've got the same, well, first I'm going to go to yoga tonight, and hopefully, and tomorrow got a strength session in the morning, the same 30-30 sprint workout on the bike, but that is okay. I'm going to try to up the power, maybe shoot for 370 watts this time. So I'm down for doing like the same workout week in, week out, because like it doesn't necessarily feel like repetition to me. It feels like opportunity to sort of try and do a little bit better than last week. So I think I'm going to enjoy that, and I do have a 20-minute run tomorrow off the bike, so I'm going to commit to doing that brick run tomorrow. On Wednesday I have a swim and a run. On the run, I've got 2 by 1 mile at tempo pace, so that'll be a little bit of speed work for me on Wednesday, and a swim. Thursday, I've got the strength training in the morning, hour easy ride like clockwork every Thursday. Swimming on Friday. Long run this Saturday is going to be 10 miles. Long ride is going to be 3 hours and 30 minutes. However, it is a zone 2 ride, no intervals. I feel like if I had to pick yesterday's workout or a 3 hour, 30-minute easy ride, I'd probably go with the longer, easier ride. I think that, so which just goes to prove that like this training session I did yesterday, I knew that was going to suck. Knew it was going to be hard. I will say that I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to get to ride my bike outdoors for this weekend's training. 3 hours and 30 minutes on the road, 3 mile brick run. I would love to go get that done all outdoors, maybe ride with some of my friends. So we'll see. Hopefully the weather will cooperate and I'll be able to get out on the road. Also need to get my front wheel sorted out before I can feel confident riding on the road. It keeps losing air. It loses air within about 24 hours. It'll go from fully pumped up to flat. It doesn't lose air right away. It just like happens overnight. Either way, I don't want to go for a 3 hour and 30-minute bike ride thinking about my tire slowly losing air. So I think that's everything to be said about the training itself, the nitty gritty. Appreciate you taking a listen to all that. I really try to dive into the day by day of this, and that is probably, a little TMI sometimes. Speaking of TMI, I learned a hard lesson on Friday, and I feel like I should know this after 12 years of, swim, bike, and run training, but I didn't really get a chance to shower after my swim on Friday morning. And I just sort of rolled through the whole day without taking that shower. I went grocery shopping. I did some chores around the house. I did laundry. I did all this stuff. And the whole time I kind of had in the back of my mind, like, I probably should have rinsed off. You know, my sort of crotch area, like, felt a little bit like the chlorine was sort of like irritating my skin, where my skin was rubbing. The last couple hours of the day on Friday, it felt like it was burning in my sort of like inner thigh area, and like it really set me up for a hard time on Sunday. So, you know, but I got on the bike on Sunday and I could feel that like stinging, like irritation from the chlorine that I had done to myself on Friday. So like 2 days later, I still feel it a little bit today. So yeah, that's a lesson. Like make rinsing off a priority in the morning after swimming before going out the rest of your day. That's just my little PSA for this week. So let's wrap this up. I found a really eloquent way to present the Garmin Connect stats. Previously, I'd been taking screenshots on my phone and uploading them, but check this out. If I just go to Garmin Connect, I can see all of it here on this page. The big news is, ever since December 2nd, I have been in a productive training status. That's right, Garmin has blessed me with the green color training status, and it has stayed productive for pretty much the entire week last week. And I got to tell you that shouldn't matter that much, but it really put a spring in my step last week. Also want to point it out that I had some real like low HRV responses to the couple of days I sort of ate really poorly and didn't train after my last race in November. You know, I sort of know my HRV nosedived, and happy to say that it's been back up into the balanced range, although still a little bit on the lower end. I think I could do a little bit better on recovery, honestly. So taking a look at the acute training load, I am shooting way up there, getting way up towards the top of that green optimal range. I wouldn't be surprised if the next couple of weeks Garmin might start telling me that I'm like overtraining or maybe like, you know, doing too much. But we'll see. I'm not really sure. You know, Garmin's going to let it know. So I'm sure Garmin will let me know. So I think that's everything today. I hope, if anything, you've gained from the video that the beginning of training for an Ironman can be fun and you can be excited about it. And it doesn't have to feel like this big, hard thing that's on your shoulders. It can be this thing that you're inspired to work towards. And, you know, I think the knowledge that the confidence that I have enough time to improve, I think that's what makes the beginning of training for an Ironman a little bit more special than when you're closer to the race and feeling like you don't got as much time to improve. So that's everything for today. Have you ever trained for an Ironman and experienced this feeling of sort of like excitement in the beginning compared to like the sort of, I don't want to call it a sludge, but like sort of like the last few weeks leading up to the race? Big difference there for me, and I'm curious if you have any experience to share your experience with this in the comments below. All right, take care. Have a great week. Thank you for watching Tri Vibes TV, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.